What's the 59?
True nature in all of us command, quand on va se porter prière, il s'est porté la foi. On est sur le trône, notre He has explored God keep by one. Glorious and free. Oh,
La ville de Kapuskasing et son conseil reconnaissent Nunutrougon sur les terres traditionnelles de la Première Nation Musqueam dans le traité 9 qui abrite également plusieurs nations. We will continue to work in collaboration towards reconciliation in a healthy and mutual manner while sharing responsibility and accountability for the health of this land, which we also call home. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The content being streamed may be subject to copyright protection.
See. We have the motion to approve the agenda.
Moved by Councilor Dennison, seconded by Councilor Cockman, that the agenda be approved as circulated.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of community interest in general items thereof? Hearing none, we'll move into committee of the whole reports and start with finance and Councilor Dennis.
First item is a request to give consideration for donation to animal rescue of Kapuskasing. The recommendation is that council deny the request as it is contrary to the municipality's donation policy. So if we deny, that means we give the 2,500 as per the policy, correct? So that would be my recommendation. Okay. Second item is that council support the council resolution regarding the executive order to impose tariffs on imports from Canada. Recommendation that council prepare a letter of support and that their resolution be forwarded to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I guess we'll have to change that now. Premier Doug Ford, the Association of Municipalities Ontario, and the Federation of Municipalities, all Ontario municipalities. Okay, and then we send that.
Can I also add to know?
That terminates.
All right, next, planning purposes, Councilor Hoover.
Number one, minutes of planning committee meeting held February 6, 2025. Does anyone have any questions about that? Questions? I'll move to number two. Request to appoint the property standards officer as the area lead inspector under the Weed Control Act, WSO 1990, chapter W.5. John, I guess this is something new, eh?
Yeah, I believe Chantal received communication a week ago. Yes. Friday of the previous week that we had to appoint an inspector by April 1st, 2025. In the past, all we had to do is advise. Now we have to pass the bylaw.
And what would that individual, what would the bylaw, whoever this person, what would they do with the weeds?
We have to establish a standard operating procedure on how they're gonna enforce the weed control act. It's not something that we're very familiar with. It's not something we've had very many inquiries about in the last 10 to 15 years. So it's something we'll have to look into and establish a policy of how the weeds will be controlled. If we come across a situation where we encounter an noxious weed.
And who determines what's a noxious weed?
They are determined under the weed control act. There's a list of 25 noxious weeds.
And if we find them, then we have to, is a municipality responsible to eradicate them?
That I'm not clear on.
I think you work with the regional or weed inspector, so essentially, first of all, they're gonna be providing training on how to identify them and how to destroy them and how to work. That's any collaboration with the province, and they'll be consulting with them or identify.
At this time, I don't foresee the enforcement officer actually being the one removing.
No, it wouldn't be the one removing, just, is it opening the door to some frivolous?
We've received some complaints in the past of municipal laneways, municipal parks, I mean, have noxious weeds. So yes, we've received comments towards just perhaps the odd weed here and there, which may not pose a direct threat to budding owners, but people walking their pets or walking their dogs through parkland and they see these weeds and they have a concern.
The one we had last on hogweed or?
Kyle parsnip was the one that in that giant, we assume it's giant hogweed, but it's normally a Kyle parsnip, and that's the one where skin irritation can form.
Any other questions? We'll move to number 3 then, requested consider zoning amendment application ZBLA 2024-02, which would rezone the property located at Concession 7, lot 13, Swanson Road, from rural RU to rural non-residential group B, RU B zone. Want to give a fast explanation of this one, John?
Yeah, we actually reviewed this application at a planning committee meeting held in February. We held the public meeting portion of it in accordance with the Planning Act on February 6, 2025. And basically this application is a result of a Kapuskasing District Planning Board condition that for consent. It had conditionally approved the severance of the road from the remainder of the concession, as long as there was a rezone of the road that brought it to conformance to the town Kapuskasing zoning bylaw for 8. It's to rezone the property from rural to rural non-residential will be. This is for the segment of Swanson Road, just north of Clearlake.
So that's just the road allowance that's changed.
Correct. The rest of it remains rural, like you used, just the road itself. My understanding is they're selling off the remainder of the parcel. Yeah.
Any questions? That would be it for myself, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks, Councilor Witten. Protective Service Bridge Management, Councilor Martin Dennis.
Minutes of the Protective Services Committee meeting held February 25th, 2025, recommendation to amend the language of section 6.0 of Schedule 8 forming part of the bylaw number 2473, establishing the tariff for fees of the fire department inspections and for false alarm laws as follows. False alarms, please, as of fire. The following will only be implemented upon the recommendation of the fire chief or his or designate that false alarm was preventable and due to improper installation or maintenance, or was an unlawful act by an individual. And are there any questions on that? Only thing I would like to add to that is I would propose an amendment to that. If there is a disagreement on between person being or organization being charged, designated that he or she or whatever has to pay, that they have a last line of defense or whatever, that it could go to council, and council ultimately decides if we go ahead and charge the fair night. That it doesn't stay with the chief, because if it's the last resort.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't that be the norm anywhere?
Well, let's see, but because that's not the case in this, because ultimately, the way it's written there, it's the fire chief has the last decision. And there's no appeal process.
The norm have anything with that?
Okay with that?
Ben, la dernière décision, lorsque on parle de constat, when we talk about fine, because that could end up to a fine, the last recourse is to file an appeal at the provincial court. Currently, it's the last recourse because it's a fine. It's a provincial fine.
But ultimately, wouldn't it be a lot simpler? Well, and if council decides to uphold the ruling by the fire chief, then the individual can still go there.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't have any problem with your recommendation. J'ai aucun problème avec votre recommandation, monsieur le conseiller. Si jamais il y a un dossier qui se rend au conseil, ben, il va être accompagné d'un rapport providing all the explanation or the reasoning behind.
Whoever got charged, the person, organization, whatever, could have it. It's a last appeal to council. So.
My only concern with that is that once the word is out, they're all gonna make themselves their way to council guarantees. It's almost where we should go back to the previous language where it's council that makes a decision.
Well, that's what actually, I think that's what we're ultimately, that's what we're here. We're here to represent the people. And
You're here to pass policy as well, right?
Pardon?
You're also here to pass policy, so the fire chief.
In my case, in order to take a decision on that, it's black or white. I can't have any gray zone. So, une fausse alarme, c'est quoi? If it's because of proper installation or mostly maintenance, and maintenance, it's a lack of taken care of by the owner of this building, that all the other citizens should not pay for that. La plupart des alarmes qu'on vit, c'est des problèmes de maintenance, OK? And je crois pas que les autres citoyens devraient payer pour ça. This is my opinion. So it's black or white.
si le conseil est d'accord avec toi, il n'y aura pas de problème.
Well, I guess if you take parking tickets, for example, so John, right, 10 years ago, probably half of the parking tickets were canceled. Because we had a policy where certain members of council, I think, and certain members of staff can cancel parking tickets. Today, we don't cancel parking tickets, and we don't have a parking ticket canceling issue. We're careful in how we give them out. We take good documentation. We give ample opportunity for people that don't park legally to comply before the parking ticket is applied. And we've left that judgment with staff, and they either approach it with a number of parking ticket infractions. And how many times did we reverse them, or did you feel like reversing one?
Well, I think what I've done is I paid for them instead. So I've actually taken the route of paying for the ones that I felt, if it's easier for me to pay for them than to So,
Do
yeah,
you pay for out of your pocket for parking tickets that?
absolutely, absolutely. During the election, and one of the ladies that I did that for was, parking in front of the meter, in front of a laneway. It was $50 ticket or something like that, and I took it. It was easier to pay for it than to. And you know what, for that, you know, that's on me, that's not those are the rules, those are the rules, I think that's what it is.
What is the recourse? If this person does not.
This is a lot more serious though.
No,
If-
but
if
what
you're-
is the recourse? You said you addressed the thing on the parking, but
Yeah.
what's the recourse for somebody that says? What recourse does a resident have?
The G debate, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So for I'm asking about parking tickets, John, is it, what's the recourse for somebody that doesn't agree with their parking?
So if somebody doesn't pay, we end up sending a neg to Cochrane, which is your superior court. And if you don't, they'll give you a day for trial if you wanna, and if you don't pay your ticket, it'll go on your license plate. When you go to, you used to renew your license plate, so I don't know from now that you don't have to anymore. But I don't know what perhaps now you can.
I still receive monthly payments though, cause if you're, if you have something registered on your license, they won't automatically renew. It'll be flagged in the system, so you'll have no choice but to renew your plates if you have that.
But that doesn't address my question is what recourse does the resident have or the individual that has to pay he's got the parking ticket now.
Yeah.
But he or she would have to go to Cochrane to fight that.
It's virtual, it's on virtual court. You do it online. Sit in front of a justice of the peace. Usually the justice of the peace is here in Kapuskasing, well, 99% of the time. And the person will explain to the judge. If he finds he was guilty, or he or she, I should say, if they guilty or.
But I think
But
that
anyway, this here, I'm proposing this so that so we don't have to go through all this, bring it to council and then council decide and that's it.
and I think honestly, what we're talking about is a lot more serious than parking.
Yeah, and finds a lot of.
And if you're talking about not maintaining your fire alarm and someone dies in the process, I mean there has to be recourse for not maintaining the fire alarm, I think, so.
How many alarms are we talking about?
Maybe Norm should do.
Mike, I don't know.
Je dirais peut-être entre 7 à 10 alarmes par année.
Ok. Je pense pas que ça a été pour moi.
That fit in this category.
And what type of buildings does this go to normally?
Ça, it's a commercial building, it's institutional building, it's industrial building. It's not small residential building. Okay, it's all the building that require an alarm system most of the time.
Is the hospital big, a fairly large offender of this?
But l'hôpital en ferait partie. Okay. Mais we have to be careful. Sometimes we think it's a false alarm, but it's not. When the system did detect something, it's not a false alarm. Okay, false alarm, and I did explain that to the Protective Services Committee. False alarm, it's when it's improper installation, or the system do malfunction. Okay, it's not when the system detects something. Faites juste imaginer, vous êtes à la maison and you're making toast, and the smoke of the toast fait partir le système d'alarme chez vous, vos avertisseurs de fumée. It's not a false alarm in our definition. Based on the projet de bylaw, it's not a false alarm, it's a real alarm. So this kind of things doesn't affect, okay? This kind of alarm, detection, it's not part of this bylaw. It's when it's totally a false alarm based on improper installation or malfunction, or quand quelqu'un commet un méfait public. Il déclenche une citation manuelle, and we know who the person, and the person is convicted. So we know that a few years ago. A few years after. Okay. It's the number of alarm, it's not a huge number, but when the system stop working properly because lack of maintenance, we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alarm within, I would say 30 days, within 21 days. So we need something to avoid that. And the bylaw, it's part of that.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with the bylaw, I just want to amend, have one other step for an appeal before applying the file.
This is council decision. It's not at my level. I'm recommending this language. We spoke about it in committee, and I think it's the right. On a vraiment questionné qu'est-ce qu'on devrait discuter, comment que ça devrait être écrit, et le comité est arrivé avec ce langage-là. I think it's the right wording to fix the issue that we have.
One option that some municipalities have moved on to instead of going through the court system is called a program called AMPS, which
Right.
is the Administrative Monetary Penalty System, which is kind of like an appeal process which doesn't force people to go to court, but there is an appeal body, a policy, a bylaw in place, and it's reviewed by a committee. It's not necessarily council, but you could have people from council, you got people from the public, people from staff on this to review every fine. And you gotta remember, this is only part 2 fines. Provincial offenses fines are different. There's part 1, part 2. This is only for part 2.
Directeur Bédot, si le conseil décide d'aller avec le programme AMPS plus tard, ben, ça va faire partie des règlements qui vont s'intégrer, qui vont être ajustés pour le programme AMPS.
Encore un autre comité, pour moi, c'est moins compliqué pour l'amener au conseil décide, c'est fini.
Well, maybe council is that committee, like, maybe council is that committee, it's not, I mean.
Well, council would be the committee, but yeah, don't have to establish another committee, just your voice of representative. Anyway, that's my recommendation on that, so I don't know. If we vote on the recommendation, or we,
Goes to the next council meeting and,
call somebody else.
yeah.
Well, the recommendation is there, and they'll have to pull it out, and if it's voted on, the committee will hold it, that's what passes, yeah. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's.
So we did have the bylaw in the bylaw section this evening.
Terminates community services.
All right, Public Works Council Newton. To receive and approve the Kapuskasing drinking water system number 22002583 24-25 inspection report as presented by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. The water treatment plant and distribution system is inspected by the Ministry of the Environment on an annual basis to assess compliance with the ministry's legislation and conformance with drinking water policies and guidelines based on observation and information available during the inspection that was held on December 12, 2024. The inspection summary rating record for reporting year 24-25 is 89.13%. Final inspection rating and 10.787 inspection risk rating. This annual inspection report is published in the ministry's chief drinking water inspection annual report. Has everyone had a chance to read this one? I have one question given to me on page 34 of the report. NC-4 question ID DWMR 1025-001. All parts of the drinking water system were not disinfected in accordance with procedure listed in Schedule B of the drinking water work permit. Do we know what happened there?
Trying to find where.
Which page 34?
It's actually Bruce 38.
One,
It's 38.
what, my.
It's changed.
James Jones.
It's basically the
You will,
Page 30,
38.
That's not one, cause it's eight for.
Your paper copy, probably 34.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Electronically is 38.
So,
What does it look like?
it's non-conformance number 4, correct?
Yes. It almost sounds like something was taken apart.
So, yeah, it's during our construction activities, for say Brunel or connecting link, any of those types of things. It's on the distances, that we, disinfect the pipe and put it back into service. So, the ministry wants it on a different interval than we proceeded with on, I believe it's on Brunel. So we've amended our standard operating procedures to reflect what they were required. But that line was still all disinfected, it just wasn't tested at the intervals that the ministry would have wanted.
So it's improved now then?
So it's improved, yeah, our standard operation procedures now, to meet these guidelines are improved.
Okay.
So it's pretty misleading, maybe not misleading in that it's not as specific as it could be.
It's not like we didn't do it,
Okay,
we did it to our standards, and they would just like us to improve our standards, which is not a problem. So all these non-conformances are really, they're minor in my opinion, but they're still valid, and we made the changes. Like everything that was identified has already been changed in our documentation.
Is the percentage lower than what we used to get?
It's very common for what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's to me, that's saying that we have very good procedures.
Okay. I thought it was in the 90s last year.
Well, we're talking 80 now.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We'll move to number 2. Request to review and approve the Kapuskasing drinking water system annual summary for the year 2024. Does everyone have a chance to read that one? Any questions?
anything you wanna draw out of that one, Paul, or?
Just in terms of I guess in the past year, we've fixed quite a few leaks. So right now, our water usage. Ultimately, but it's probably the lowest it's been in about 10 years. So we are fixing a lot of issues, which is really good. So we're quite happy with the numbers that we're seeing today.
Any other questions? That'll be it for myself and Mr. Mayor.
All right, economic development, community well-being, Councillor Gary Forte.
Bonjour. Okay, the one, the council approves a request to enter into an MOU with the Greenfirst Forest Products and Cap Paper Inc. to review the feasibility establishing a greenhouse operation in conjunction with Cap Paper's cogeneration project. Recommendation that council approves the request to enter into memorandum of understanding with Greenfirst Products and the Cap Paper Inc. I'll get a little bit about it. Cap Paper Inc. plans to establish a cogeneration facility capable of producing both electricity and thermal energy. By integrating a greenhouse into this development, we can make efficient use of the heat produced, thus lowering the greenhouse's operational costs and strengthening the cogeneration project business case. This approach is particularly important considering ongoing trade disputes and tariffs between Canada and the US, which have raised concerns about reliable and affordable access to fresh produce. According to recent data, the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada Stats Canada imports a significant portion of vegetables from the US. In particular, 5 vegetable types alone, tomatoes, lettuce, peppers, onions, and cucumbers, account for hundreds of millions of dollars in imports each year. We can reduce this exposure to international trade uncertainties while ensuring a more reliable supply of fresh produce. So it's a really exciting project, Mr. Mayor could probably speak a lot more to it than me reading, if anybody have any questions.
Yeah, it's, as mentioned, like we import 67% of our vegetables into Canada from the US. And about 35% of that is fruits, and so I think honestly, it's a perfect opportunity to self-sustainability when it comes to vegetables and fruits, and I don't know if you wanted to speak to that, Paul, a little bit.
Yeah, I think, in terms of the project, it's as simple as putting a greenhouse beside a coconut project. But the way to get there is by executing an MOU with Green First, so that we can dedicate some useful resources such as my time to work on the feasibilities of the project. I think that's more what the request is tonight to council. I will start work on the project if we can start getting the messaging down there. We're getting a MOU signed, and then I can start working on the feasibility and working with Green First to try and work something here with
And we're not reinventing the wheel, right? There's another province that's doing
Yes,
this.
so they've done this with Resolute at Lac Saint Jean at Saint Félicien. So the 35 that's operating there, it's right beside another plant. So it's proven, it's
Nice.
you can do it in the Northern Continent, but it's a matter of doing it here in Kapuskasing and securing that cogeneration agreement.
I think it really comes at an appropriate time when we're looking at building a cogen, and it's a complete circle, right? So the tree comes in and the end product is steam that heats greenhouses and produces vegetables for the province alone.
It's interesting project, I think somebody should probably visit that Félicien project sometime, because just to see, because as far as climate's concerned, they have a little bit better climate, and at the same time it's a little bit more moderate than here, but basically the same, so.
Yeah, it's interesting, it's a good way, it's a good way to use up all the energy we're burning, right? So, really cool.
But the project.
Anyways, it's good news. I'm meeting with Green First this evening after the meeting. That's why the meeting's been moved up. So I'd like to be able to talk to them a little bit more about this evening if we actually pass the resolution to the next.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Number 2 is a request from the Festival de Saint Jean to declare the week of June 8th to 14th as la Semaine Francophone. In addition to the declaration of an event municipal significances as requirements of the AGCO and Co. permit application for the provisions of installation of security fencing by the town of Kapuskasing on the perimeter of the public lot located on Monday Avenue, and to provide public noticing under the temporary use bylaw number 4537, allowing the event to be held in that said property. The recommendation that the week of June 8th to the 14th, be declared as a Semaine Francophone for the town of Kapuskasing, and that the Festival de Saint Jean be confirmed as an event municipal significance to meet the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario Special Occasion Permits requirements, and that the municipality supports the event by means of providing and installing security fencing around the perimeter of the marquee as an in-kind contribution to the parking lot located on Monday Avenue, and to assist with the public noticing under the temporary use bylaw number 4537, allowing the event to be held in that said property. Pretty straightforward. Questions about that? Okay. Number 3, request from Remy Lake Ski Hill Club for financial contributions to support the 2024-2025 season. Recommendation that the request be denied as it is contrary to the town's Kapuskasing administration policy D-1, fee reduction subsidy and annual standards donation. Minutes of the Kapuskasing Public Library Board meeting held January 20th, 2025. I went through it briefly. It's really just normal type of stuff. So that's it for the recreation.
All right. No other questions. We'll move into health. Council Copeland again.
All right. Number 1, request from the Northeastern Public Health to participate in the World TB Day by lighting up the town red on March 24, 25, in an effort to bring attention and collectively end TB by 2030 for the Sustainable Development Goals. recommendation that the council recognizes the importance of supporting the initiative and participating in the World TV Day on March 24th, 2025. Every effort will be made to encourage citizens and businesses alike to light up the town red on March 24th, 2025. In recognition of the World TV Day and for the town of Kapuskasing through social media and lights displaying municipal facilities pending availability of supplies. Pretty straightforward. Number 2 is the minutes of the Porcupine Health Team, the Board of Health meeting held September 5th, 2024. The Northeastern Public Health Board was held meeting held January 1st, 2025. It was interesting having a meeting on January 1st. It's a lot of fun. And the last one is the minutes from the Northeastern Public Board of Health meeting held January 30th, 2025. It's all for you.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, this concludes the committee of the whole part of the meeting. We have an adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Newton, seconded by Councillor Coffin, that the minutes of the joint committees of the whole and council meeting held February 3rd, 2025 be approved.
All in favor? Carried. Unfinished business nil, correspondence. We have the Cochrane District Service Board media release third nationally coordinated point of time counts conducted in Cochrane District. That's the point in time count for the homeless in our area. Committee of the whole recommendations nil. We have a staff report. We have a request for consideration of appointing Ontario Ombudsman as a default closed meeting investigator for the town of Kapuskasing. Did you want to add anything to that?
It's just as the report states, the last agreement that we had for a closed meeting investigator was the previous council, which was for a term of 4 years, and it expired. It was never reinstated for this term. And by default, if you don't have another separate kind of consultant or entity as your closed meeting investigator, you default to the Ontario Ombudsman for those services at no cost. But you still need to do an appointment and advise it, because then they actually provide that information publicly, that if somebody wants to make a complaint, they can just do it then. That's why we have to have a resolution.
Is this common?
It is very common.
All right, so is there any objections to that? All right, hearing none. We'll make it happen. Motions and notice of motions. We have the one to proclaim April 2nd.
Moved by Councillor Fortin, seconded by Councillor Dennison. Whereas World Autism Day is recognized on April 2nd, 2025 in Canada, Autism Ontario is one of the largest collective voices representing the autism community, and the work we do helps all autistic individuals and families in their communities have access to meaningful support, information, and connections, not only on April 2nd, but every day throughout the year. Whereas autism impacts more than 135,000 individuals in Ontario, representing 1 in every 50 Canadian children and youth. It not only influences the lives of autistics, but also their friends, families, and communities. It's crucial for us to raise awareness and acceptance, provide support, and promote a more inclusive society. Whereas autism is a diverse spectrum that varies widely among individuals. Each person's experience with autism can change over time. This evolving journey highlights the uniqueness of every autistic individual, emphasizing the need for understanding and support tailored to their specific needs. Whereas Autism Ontario is the leading source of information and referral on autism, and since 1973 has been providing support, information, and opportunities for thousands of families and individuals across the province. Whereas Autism Ontario is devoted to raising public awareness about autism and addressing the everyday challenges faced by individuals with autism, their families, and the professionals who work alongside them. We urge everyone to recognize and celebrate the unique differences and needs of others, fostering an inclusive environment where all individuals can participate fully in activities and discussions. Together we can create a society that values and includes everyone. Now therefore be it resolved that Kapuskasing hereby recognizes April 2nd as World Autism Day, while committing to embrace awareness and acceptance today and every day throughout the year.
All in favor? Carried. Next motion?
Moved by Councillor Newton, seconded by Councillor Fortin, that Lynn Nadeau be appointed to the Kapuskasing Business Improvement Area Board of Management for a term that coincides with the current term of council.
Discussion.
Question. Is she nominated by the business, who nominates her?
So if they show interest, that they want to participate, and we've been recruiting actively for the last 2 terms of council, because we don't have enough members.
But so any business owners or anybody involved in that can forward their name.
That's right, yeah, and we still have 1 more vacancy.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Next motion?
Moved by Councillor Dennison, seconded by Councillor Newton, that the Kapuskasing Drinking Water System Annual and Summary Report for the year 2024 be approved in accordance with Ontario Regulation 170-03 under the Safe Drinking Water Act 2002, and that the report be made available to the public for viewing on the municipal website no later than March 31st, 2025.
All in favor? Carried. Next.
Moved by Councillor Dennison, seconded by Councillor Newton, that the town of Kapuskasing enter into a memorandum of understanding with Green First Forest Products and Cat Paper Inc. to review the feasibility of establishing a greenhouse operation in conjunction with Cat Paper's co-generating project.
All in favor? Carried. General items, new business, no bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Fortin, seconded by Councillor Newton, that bylaw 4620 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a return for service agreement pertaining to healthcare recruitment and retention of family medicine and obstetrical services. And that bylaw 4621 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4198 to rezone severed land known as a portion of Swanson Road from rural to rural group B. And that bylaw 4622 being a bylaw to lift 1-foot reserves in the town of Kapuskasing as highways and merged with adjacent road allowances. And that bylaw 4623 being a bylaw to appoint the Ontario Ombudsman as a closed meeting investigator and to repeal bylaw 4299. And that bylaw 4624 being the bylaw to amend the false alarm section 6 to be deferred to the next meeting. That bylaw 4625 being a bylaw to amend 4570 to approve the statutory statement of the municipal treasurer for the year 2024. That bylaw 4626 being a bylaw to appoint an area weed inspector. That these bylaws be enacted or passed, that the corporate seal be affixed thereto, and that the bylaws be signed by the mayor and the clerk.
Just one comment before we ask for the vote, really encouraged by the return of service agreement of 4620 of physician and his wife, who is a nurse to our community, and the fact that they're where he is looking at delivering babies as one of the things he's willing to offer. I think we've all heard what the discussion was during the past provincial election, so this really comes at a really good time when other communities are having a hard time finding positions. So kudos to the recruitment committee at the hospital and everybody involved. Really good news here. All right, all in favor? Carried. Closed session, we have nothing. Motion to approve the bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Dennison, seconded by Councillor Fortin, that bylaw 4627 be council be enacted and passed, that the corporate seal be affixed thereto, and that the bylaw be signed by the mayor.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Fortin, seconded by Councillor Newton, that the meeting be adjourned at 4:42 p.m.
All in favor? Carried.